I see you trying to elevate your pizza. I saw that you were milling some flour. Is that right?
I am. So there's a local um, place that has grains, and I got a couple bags shipped over to me, and it's kind of like when you make coffee. For me, I had an aha moment when I made coffee. When I got the beans from Whole Foods that were put in the canister a day before, I ground them right then and there because they have the machine to grind them. And then I went home and I made coffee that night or that morning, whatever it was. And that was like the best, freshest coffee you ever had. I'm like, what if you could do this with grains? So I tried it, and it's amazing. It's a game changer, and it's such a small percentage that you need to put in to elevate that flavor like ridiculously.
What percentage do you use?
So for my Neapolitan pizza, I try to keep it like around 10%. But if I'm making, Detroit's or Sicilians, I'll up it to around 25. And if I'm doing bread, I bake a lot of bread with my discard. I don't like wasting that either. I'll up it to almost 50%. Either like a spelt or a whole wheat of some sort. And I think the flavor is just amazing. And it's good for you, and it tastes good, and you're getting more nutrition, and you're getting everything that bread is supposed to be giving you.
That's so interesting. I love the coffee analogy because I just recently, I think December of last year, started grinding my own coffee. I was even doing manual grinding of my beans up until I got a grinder. And it's a burr grinder. I don't know what the other one is called, but basically you want that. It tastes amazing, right? You get that freshness. The aroma just hits you in the morning, and it's just this whole like procedure for me that I love. And the way you described it for grinding your own wheat, I get the comparison and why it's so important even better.
Yeah, I definitely geek out over that too. So I also had a burr grinder, and I have a manual espresso puller where you're pulling the shot yourself, which is where that saying came from. But I just get these moments where I just go 150% in the direction of trying to do it the best I can. Like, I don't know, I just geek out on stuff sometimes, trying to make stuff the best I can, and just I feel like milling my own grain was that exact thing.
How did you land on the percentage of ground wheat?
Right. So with Neapolitan pizza, for me, it has to be easy for me to open the pie. And when I was putting too much whole wheat, I noticed I wasn't getting as much stretch out of the dough. It would tear a lot easier. And when I'm trying to open up the pies and I'm trying to make them, you know, the 12 inches that I try to do out of this little dough ball, I noticed that the wheat was kind of cutting the gluten and it was messing it up for me. I even tried adding Vita wheat gluten into it to increase it, but that just made it too chewy. So I kind of downed the whole wheat percentage where you get the flavor, it's there, but it's not so overpowering and it's not going to mess up your gluten structure. But with like my Detroits and my square pies, I up it a little bit more because you're not really stretching it up. It kind of gets formed in a pan, and you kind of afforded the luxury of upping it to 25%, um, and you really don't have to worry about the structure of the dough being compromised too much.
Okay, that's a great answer. And tell me about like the process of milling. Did you buy a certain tool for that? Where did you get that?
So the mill I use, I'm probably going to get crucified for this, but I have the Vitamix grains container, and it's a specific setup of blades, and they spin in a certain way that it pushes food away from the blades. So that's what I use to mill. I don't have like the stone and all that grinding stuff. Although I was looking at getting it, but the Vitamix thing was just more cost effective for me since I already had the Vitamix blender. It was like $120 for the container. I got it. It worked great. I run it through a strain like a fine mesh sieve to get out like the particles that are a little bit bigger. And I mean, it works great. I think it puts out a very similar product to what I would get if I bought the whole stone mill setup.
Yeah, I totally relate to that because I used to have a planetary mixer at home, a KitchenAid, and I was like, this isn't really the best thing to use. So I ended up just returning it. And now I just hand mix all my dough. But when I really have a huge batch, I'll use a food processor. And I'm sure people kind of like cringe when they hear that from me. But at the end of the day, it's like I already have this. I'm trying to save up for a spiral mixer. One day I will get one. But until then, this works for me and my budget and my kitchen counter space. So it is what it is.
Exactly. I have so many kitchen gadgets that I couldn't. I'd get crucified for buying another one, for something so specific. But I think down the timeline, I think that might be a purchase that I can justify. But I have, more kitchen gadgets on shelves than I care to admit. Um, but I'm sure I'll be getting a mill soon enough for sure.
Yeah,
But a
knowing you, you
spiral
will.
mixer, I will say, is a game changer compared to like the KitchenAid planetary mixer or doing it by hand. I have a Sun Mix that I use, and it's awesome. Love it. It
Yeah,
just
I
mixes
know.
that dough better than anything I could ask for.
I know. I rub it in, man.
Hey, I was hand
One
mixing
more.
for a while too. I was hand mixing batches of dough that were pretty decent size, and I would mix 6 7 batches a day. So I definitely got my workout in.
For sure. For sure.
But you got to be able
Someone
to
asked me,
justify it to yourself and others. So got to do what works. That food processor works right now. By all means, go for it.
right, right. And then just one more question about the milling of your grains. Like, can you just like break down the process for me? Because I've never seen it done before.
I order the whole berries, the wheat berries, whatever variety I want. They're in Pennsylvania, which is, I guess, if I drove to pick it up, maybe an hour and a half away. So it usually ships, and I get it the next day. So it's pretty fresh. On their end, at least, it's not like it was sitting on a shelf for months in a food store. And then I get the whole berries. I weigh out the volume that I need, plus maybe 10% more, and then I'll put roughly about a cup's worth of the berry in the blender, and it grinds it up, and it comes out like flour. And then again, like I said, I run it through a mesh strainer just to get out the larger particles that may not have gotten ground up perfectly.
Mm. And then just whatever is left from being strained, you just throw in your dough and then mix, and that's it.
That's it. Yeah, pretty much after after I strain it, I have a finished flour. It's good to go. It looks identical to any whole wheat that you would get from a supermarket, and it works great. The aroma of it too is just it's similar to coffee. When you when you grind your own coffee, that smell is just nuts. Versus when you open up a can of Folgers that was on a shelf for 3 months, that was ground 6 months before that. You go to Costco and see these huge tubs of ground coffee, and I think I'm like, I wonder when this bean was grown, roasted, and ground. And it's like it could be months, if not years ago. And you know, I just think you're putting this product into you. You want the best thing that you can get, even if it takes a little bit more work, even if it's a little more expensive. You know.
Yeah, that matters. That definitely matters. I love that. What is the brand of wheat berries that you use from Pennsylvania?
So the mill is called Castle Valley Mill, and they grow their own wheats, and they sell it ground. But of course, me, I have to do it myself. But I think they also have like corn that they do, so that's pretty cool. I want to maybe pick some of that up and try making some cornbread with their cornmeal.
That is so cool. I love that. Thank you for sharing that.